The stars above the Orion fringe were silent. No trade routes, no patrols, no life signs. Only drifting wrecks from forgotten wars. For hundreds of years, that region of space was called the Graveyard Belt, a place where ships went missing and never came back. But for the Zarthan exploration crew, silence meant opportunity. Their small vessel, the Ardent Dawn, cut through the void with careful precision. 6 alien explorers sat inside, each one from a world where curiosity was both a blessing and a curse. Their leader, Captain Rethar, watched the scanners closely. A faint signal pulsed in the dark. Weak, distorted, but unmistakably artificial. Signal origin. 3 clicks ahead, said Engineer Voss, his voice trembling. Frequency is old, very old. It does not match any known database. Rethar's eyes narrowed. Play it. A voice echoed through the ship, broken by static. Deep, human, and mechanical. This is... The UNS Valkyrie request assistance crew lost. Then silence again. For a moment, none of them spoke. The Zarthans had explored over 50 star systems, but never heard a voice like that. So raw, so heavy with pain. UNS, murmured Voss. Old Terran prefix? Rethar frowned. Impossible. Humans vanished long before our species took to the stars. Still, the captain leaned forward, his curiosity overcoming reason. Set a course. I want to see it. The crew obeyed, though unease filled the cabin. The closer they flew to the source, the darker space became. Clouds of metallic dust surrounded them. Remnants of ancient battles. Weapons and burnt hulls that looked centuries old. Then, out of the fog, they saw it. A colossal ship floated in silence, half buried in drifting debris. Its hull was massive, built with angular human design, brutal, efficient, terrifying. Huge gun turrets lined its flanks, each one capable of tearing apart a fleet. Across the side of the hull, letters were barely visible under the scorch marks. UNS Valkyrie, Voss whispered. By the stars, it's real. The vessel was longer than any capital ship they had ever seen. Its engines were cold, its weapons silent. But something about it felt alive, like a beast asleep under the ashes. Scan for energy signatures, ordered Rethar. Minimal, replied Navigator Sitha. Power cells are depleted, but I am reading faint pulses inside. The ship still breathes. Rethar hesitated. We board it. The crew exchanged fearful glances. Everyone had heard the stories about Deathworlders. Creatures so violent their planets were classified as lethal to most life forms. And humanity? They were the first species ever given the Class 3 Deathworld rating. Still, the explorers suited up and launched a small boarding craft. The Valkyrie loomed larger as they approached, its armor blackened by centuries of warfare. The docking clamps connected with a heavy thud. When the airlock hissed open, the scent of rust and dust filled the explorers' helmets. They stepped inside. The corridors were vast and cold. Light panels flickered weakly along the walls. There was no movement, no signs of life. Only rows of empty storage crates, fallen helmets, and dried markings of a language no longer spoken in the galaxy. This place, murmured Medic Sen. It feels wrong. Rethar nodded. Keep moving. The bridge should be near the center. They advanced slowly. Each step echoed like thunder in the hollow corridors. The deeper they went, the more the ship seemed to wake. Consoles began flickering, doors unlocked on their own, and faint hums of machinery whispered through the walls. Suddenly, the corridor lights turned red. The sound of gears grinding filled the air. The explorers froze. Captain, said Voss, his hands shaking. The ship, it's powering itself on. Before Rethar could answer, a metallic voice echoed through the halls. Calm, commanding. Crew of the UNS Valkyrie, biometric scan complete. The explorers exchanged nervous looks. Crew status unknown. Foreign entities detected. Rethar's heart pounded. Foreign entities? What is it talking about? The ship's voice grew sharper. Welcome back, officers of the UNS Valkyrie. Crew identity confirmed. Human origin. Silence. The explorers stared at one another in disbelief. None of them were human. Not even close, Captain, Sen whispered. It thinks we're its crew. Suddenly, the door ahead slammed shut. Emergency lights bathed the hallway in crimson. The floor vibrated as if the ship was alive, pulsing with energy. Warning. Unknown biosigns in restricted area. Security protocol initiated. Gun turrets dropped from the ceiling, old, rusted, but still operational. The explorers raised their arms, backing against the wall. "Deactivate," shouted Rathar. "We mean no harm." But the ship did not respond. The lights flickered again. Then, just as quickly, the turrets retracted back into the ceiling. The ship spoke one more time. "Crew memory detected. Restoring archive." Every console along the corridor lit up. Holograms flickered to life. Images of humans in black uniforms, smiling, laughing, saluting. One woman stood at the center, her name tag reading Commander Elise Ward. Her recorded voice echoed softly through the air. "If anyone finds this ship, we failed our mission. The war took everything, but humanity does not vanish. We endure." The hologram faded, Voss whispered, almost in awe. They were real. They actually lived here. Rathar felt a chill run through him. For the first time, the myths seemed real. The tales of a species that turned entire planets into weapons. The race that vanished after reshaping the stars. But before he could process it, the ship's voice spoke again, this time quieter, almost human. "Sleep interrupted. Cryopod activity detected." Rathar's eyes widened. "Cryopod?" The ship rumbled. Somewhere deep within its dark hull, a chamber came to life through lights flickering, machinery hissing. The crew's scanners detected a faint heartbeat. Sen whispered, "Captain, something is waking up." The ship's final words echoed through the corridors before falling silent again. "Welcome back, Commander Ward," and then the sound of slow, deliberate breathing filled the ship. The explorers stood frozen. They had come searching for treasure, but what they found was human. The air inside the ship felt heavier now. Every sound echoed through the dark steel corridors. The Zarthan explorers moved slowly, their flashlights cutting thin lines through the fog that rolled from broken vents. Somewhere deep inside the ship, something was awake. Captain Rathar held his scanner tight. "Track the signal," he said quietly. His voice, calm but tense, was swallowed by the metallic hum of the warship. The ship's AI had spoken again. "Welcome back, Commander Ward." Those words looped in Rathar's head as the crew advanced through the halls. Voss's scanner blinked. Energy spike detected ahead. Life form active. Medic Sen's claws trembled slightly as he adjusted his mask. "Captain, that thing in the cryo chamber, and it is alive." Rathar did not respond. He already knew. The feeling in his chest told him that something old, powerful, and dangerous had returned. They reached a sealed bulkhead. The door bore the mark of the old human fleet, a symbol of wings, stars, and a sword through the center. Below it, words carved in fading paint read, "Yun's Valkyrie, command deck. Open it," Rathar ordered. Voss hesitated but pressed the control pad. The door groaned, gears creaking from centuries of rust, then slid open with a heavy sigh. Cold air spilled out. The room beyond was massive, filled with holographic consoles, broken chairs, and shattered glass panels. In the center stood a single cryopod, its glass covered in frost, faint blue light pulsing within. Inside lay a human. He was tall, his skin pale, his hair short and dark. His body was covered in a tight, metallic uniform with faded symbols on the chest. Ewan's commander. His eyes were closed, but his fingers twitched slightly. The pod systems were trying to stabilize him. "Captain," whispered Sitha, "the readings are off the scale. This creature's biology. It should not exist. No known race could survive this long." Rathar stepped closer. "Wake him," Sen gasped. "What, are you mad? He could be dangerous." Rathar looked at the human's still form. "This ship thinks we are its crew. Maybe he can tell us what happened here." Voss tapped the console beside the pod. The system responded instantly. Lines of old Terran code filled the holographic screen. A soft female voice on the ship's AI spoke. "Cryogenic sequence disengaged." "Commander Ward, welcome back." The frost cracked. The glass lifted. A breath, deep and sharp, escaped the human's chest. His eyes snapped open, glowing faintly blue in the dark. The crew stepped back as the human sat up slowly, gasping, his movements stiff but controlled. For a few seconds he said nothing. Then in a low, hoarse voice he spoke words that chilled everyone in the room. "Status report." Rathar's translator clicked, repeating the words in their language. The alien captain stepped forward carefully. "You are aboard your ship, human. We found it adrift. You have been asleep for—" The human's head turned sharply toward him. His gaze was piercing, calm, and unreadable. "Who are you?" "We are explorers from the Zarthan Collective," Rathar said. "We detected your distress signal. We mean no harm." The human stood unsteady but strong. He looked around the command deck. "Zarthan?" he repeated slowly as if tasting the word. "Never heard of it." Voss cleared his throat. "Our archives say humans disappeared over 300 years ago." The human frowned, his hand brushing across the frozen metal of the pod. 300 years? He turned toward the main screen and placed his hand on a small circular pad. The ship's AI responded instantly. "Welcome, Commander Ward. Systems operational. Crew deceased. Time elapsed 327 years. The human took a long breath. His eyes hardened. "So it is true." Rathar looked at him cautiously. "What happened here?" Ward's voice was quiet, but it carried an edge of steel. "War happened. The kind you do not survive." He began walking toward the control panels, pressing switches as if guided by instinct. The consoles flickered, lighting up with tactical data and star maps. The Zarthans exchanged worried looks. "Captain," whispered Voss. "He is bringing the ship online." Ward turned to face them. "You should not be here," Rathar frowned. "We found you. We saved you." The human's cold eyes locked on his. "No, you woke me." At that moment, the lights around the command deck brightened. The walls shook softly as distant engines rumbled. The ship was alive again. The AI's voice returned. "Weapons system recalibrated. Shield matrix active. External scan. Detected unknown vessels in proximity." Ward's face darkened. "Scavengers?" he said quietly. "They always come when they sense power." The aliens looked to each other, alarmed. "Scavengers? Out here?" Ward nodded once. "They will come for this ship. And if they find me, they will not leave alive." Sen stepped forward nervously. "What are you going to do?" Ward looked at his reflection in the cracked glass of the command panel. "What I was trained to do. Protect my ship." He opened a panel beside the command seat. Inside lay a weapon, old but perfectly preserved. He picked it up and checked the charge with practiced ease. The Zarthans were silent. None of them dared to move. Rathar finally spoke. "Commander Ward, the galaxy has changed. There are no wars now. Humans are only myths. You should rest." The human gave a faint, humorless smile. "Myths, huh? That is how it always ends. We fight, we vanish, and they forget." He looked out through the wide viewport where distant stars shimmered like ghosts. "But we always return when they need reminding." The AI's voice interrupted again. "Incoming signatures detected. 6 hostile ships approaching. Designation Scavenger Fleet." Ward's expression turned calm. He walked to the captain's chair and sat down slowly. The lights around him brightened, the chair adjusting to his command. "Human command protocols active," said the AI. "Weapons online." Rathar whispered, "Captain, we should leave, now." Ward glanced at them. "If you value your lives, stay in the observation bay. You will want to see what a human warship can do." The crew obeyed silently, stepping back as Ward's fingers danced over the controls. The ship's core began to glow, lighting the dark like the birth of a small sun. In that moment, the explorers finally understood what Deathworlder truly meant. The ghost ship was no longer silent. It was waking, and humanity's shadow had returned to the stars. The ship trembled as power surged through its veins. What was once cold metal began to hum with life. The faint blue glow from the floor panels grew brighter, spreading like blood through the arteries of a waking beast. The Zarthan explorers stood on the observation deck, staring down at the human who now sat in the command chair. Commander Ward looked calm, too calm. His eyes were sharp and focused, his movements deliberate, every gesture precise like someone who had done this 1,000 times before. The ship's AI spoke in a tone that carried authority and purpose. "Commander Ward, system reboot complete. Primary reactors at 72%. Weapons calibration, operational. Shield integrity 93%. Ward nodded slightly. "Good. Patch me through to tactical view." A large holographic screen flickered to life, showing 6 red blips moving fast toward their position. The scavenger fleet. Captain Rathar and his crew exchanged tense glances. None of them had ever seen weapons technology this advanced. Even half dead, this ship felt more powerful than entire fleets. Ward leaned forward. "Identify those vessels. Scanning. Non-affiliated scavenger class. Armement minimal. Crew, biological, various species. Intent, hostile." The human smirked faintly. Of course. Vultures always come first. He stood and walked toward the central viewport. Outside, the endless dark was now streaked with faint lights. The scavengers had arrived. Their ships were ugly, patchwork vessels made from stolen hulls and broken machinery. They surrounded the Valkyrie like insects around a sleeping animal, unaware of what kind of predator they had disturbed. Sen, the medic, whispered from behind the glass. They do not know. They have no idea, Rithar said nothing. He could feel it, the hum beneath his feet, the slow awakening of something that should never have been touched. The radio crackled. A guttural voice came through, filled with arrogance. Unidentified warship, surrender your cargo and deactivate your systems. You are surrounded. Resist and you will be destroyed. Ward chuckled, a quiet, humorless sound that echoed through the bridge. Destroyed? He repeated softly. The AI spoke again. Incoming signal request. Shall I respond, Commander? Ward's lips curled into a half-smile. Yes, patch me through. His voice went out across the stars, calm but cold. This is Commander Nathan Ward of the United Nations ship Valkyrie. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. After that, I will not repeat myself. The scavengers laughed through the comm line, a cruel, mocking sound. United Nations? Never heard of it, old man. Your threats mean nothing. Prepare to die. Ward sighed and looked up at the glowing ceiling. They always choose the hard way. He sat down, resting both hands on the command console. AI Weapons Authorization Award Protocols 07. Authorization confirmed. Armaments active. The explorers flinched as lights turned red throughout the ship. The hull panels shifted and enormous cannons emerged from their housings. The scavengers began to fire, bright streaks of plasma slamming against the Valkyrie's shields. But the human ship did not flinch. The energy bursts disappeared into its blue barrier like raindrops hitting a lake. Shields holding at 100%, reported the AI. Ward spoke softly, almost like a whisper. Fire. A single flash of light erupted from the ship's underbelly, silent, pure, and blinding. When it faded, 2 scavenger ships were gone. Not damaged, gone, vaporized into glowing dust. The Zarthans stared in stunned silence. Even Rithar, a veteran of 100 expeditions, could not speak. Ward leaned forward again. Target the next 2. Locked. Fire. Another pulse. Another explosion. The void was filled with debris. The scavenger fleet panicked, scattering in all directions. Their leader screamed through the comm. Cease fire! Cease. Ward cut the transmission. They never learn. The AI's voice softened. Enemy vessels retreating. Pursuit? He looked at the stars for a long moment before replying. Negative. Let them live. Let them remember what they saw. Silence filled the command deck once more. Only the hum of the Valkyrie's engines remained. Deep, steady, alive. Rithar and his crew entered slowly. The air felt warmer now, heavy with tension and awe. Rithar cleared his throat. You destroyed them in seconds. With a single weapon. Ward turned toward him. His expression was unreadable. Those were warning shots, Voss stammered. Warning? That was power beyond any known fleet. Ward looked at the young engineer and said quietly, Power is not what makes a weapon deadly. Purpose does. He walked toward a wall panel and tapped a sequence of buttons. The lights dimmed and a hologram appeared, an image of hundreds of human ships stretched across the stars in formation. Their hulls bore the same mark. Ewens Ward stared at them in silence for a few seconds, then spoke. We were supposed to be the Guardians, but in the end even Guardians fall asleep, Kitha asked softly. What happened to humanity, Commander? Ward did not answer right away. His gaze lingered on the holograms, on the faces of his long-dead crew, smiling in old recordings. Finally, he said, we reached too far. We tried to protect everyone, even those who feared us. The galaxy called us monsters, so we left. But the stars never forget what walked among them. He closed the hologram and faced them again. And now, you've woken one of us, Rithar hesitated. What will you do now? Ward looked through the viewport again, watching the debris drift in silence. His voice dropped to a whisper. What humans always do, rebuild, remember, and make sure no one repeats the same mistakes. The AI interrupted. Commander, long-range sensors detect faint distress signals. Multiple systems, Ward sighed. Same as before. The galaxy never changes. He placed his hand on the console and the ship responded instantly. Engines flared to life, thrumming with energy. Rathar felt the vibration rise through the floor. "Commander, wait! You cannot just go alone." Ward smiled faintly, the first real smile they had seen. "Captain, I have been alone for centuries. I think I can manage a little longer." He gave a short nod. The AI confirmed, course set. Destination, distress signal origin. The Valkyrie turned slowly, its thrusters igniting like small suns. The Zarthan explorers watched in awe as the ancient human ship drifted forward, silent but alive, a ghost carrying the will of a race long forgotten. In that moment, they understood why the galaxy had once feared humanity. It was not their strength. It was their resolve. And as the Valkyrie disappeared into the stars, Rathar whispered under his breath. They called them monsters. But maybe they were just human. The UNS Valkyrie cut through the darkness like a silent blade. Its engines whispered instead of roared, glowing faintly blue against the sea of stars. Behind it, the Zarthan vessel followed at a cautious distance. None of the alien explorers spoke. They simply watched the impossible ship move, ancient yet alive, obeying its human commander as if time itself still served him. Inside the Valkyrie's command deck, Commander Nathan Ward sat alone. His face was calm, but his eyes told a different story. Tired, haunted, lost somewhere between duty and grief. Holograms flickered across the bridge, showing faint distress signals from dying colonies, empty worlds, and silent beacons. He whispered softly, almost to himself. 300 years. And the cries have not stopped. The AI responded in its smooth female voice. Commander, distress beacon origin identified. Delta 9 sector, unregistered colony. Estimated survivors unknown. Ward stood and tightened the faded straps of his uniform. Plot a course. Maximum speed. Confirmed. Engaging warp drive. The stars stretched, twisted, and then snapped back. Moments later, the Valkyrie drifted above a broken planet, cracked, scorched, covered in black storms. Debris floated in orbit. Colony ships, shattered domes, metal fragments burned by plasma fire. Rathar's voice came over the comm. Commander Ward, this place? It is dead. Why come here? Ward stared at the ruins below. Because humans built this colony. I recognize the signal frequency. The AI confirmed. UNS colony designation. Hope's Reach. Population records lost. Last transmission classified. Show me, Ward said quietly. A hologram appeared in front of him. The flickering image of a woman appeared. Older, with dark hair tied back, eyes steady and kind. Her voice trembled yet held strength. To any surviving ships, this is Governor Elise Ward of Hope's Reach. We are under attack. The enemy calls themselves the Varick Dominion. We held them off as long as we could, but this is the end. If anyone finds this, tell my brother Nathan. The message cut out. Ward froze. His eyes widened just slightly. Elise. For the first time since awakening, his voice broke. The Zarthans listening from their ship felt the weight of that single word. Rathar said softly, Your family? Ward nodded slowly. My sister. He turned to the AI. Scan the surface. Any remains? Minimal biological residue. But Commander, there is something else. Show me. A second hologram formed, an enormous crater near the colony's ruins. In the center of the crater was a black structure, half buried, glowing faintly red beneath the dust. Unidentified construct. Composition. Human alloys mixed with unknown elements. Ward narrowed his eyes. A weapon? Negative. It appears to be a transmitter. He leaned forward. A message? Possibly, but it is still active. Without hesitation, Ward gave the order. Prepare descent. The Valkyrie broke through the storm clouds like thunder, scattering lightning across the ruined sky. The ground below was covered in ash and shattered glass. The Zarthans followed behind in a small shuttle, their hearts pounding with fear and curiosity. The two ships landed near the crater. Ward stepped out first, the wind whipping across his uniform. His boots crunched against black soil that smelled of burnt metal and old sorrow. The Zarthans followed, scanning nervously. No signs of life, said Voss. Ward ignored them and walked toward the glowing structure. The dust cleared, revealing a large metallic pillar covered in carvings. Human symbols and words etched deep into the surface. At the top, a line of text read, For those who come after us, Ward touched the surface. It was warm. A voice, faint but clear, echoed from within the metal. If you hear this, then humanity has already fallen. But do not mourn us. We built our legacy not in survival but in memory. We left behind a promise, never again will fear rule the stars. The recording continued, the voice strong, proud. We were the ones who turned death into progress. We faced worlds that wanted to kill us, and we thrived. If others find this monument, know this: humanity did not die. We became part of the universe itself. Every world touched by courage, every hand that refuses to surrender, there we live. Ward's throat tightened. The words cut deeper than any wound. The Zarthans stood silent, listening as the wind howled through the crater. Rathar finally spoke. They built this to be remembered. Ward nodded slowly. No, they built it to remind others how to live. He knelt down, brushing the dust from the metal. For a moment, the human commander looked smaller, almost fragile. Centuries of war and loss weighed on him, yet in his eyes burned the faint flame of something unbreakable. He whispered, "You kept your promise, Elise." The AI interrupted gently. "Commander, incoming energy signatures. Unknown fleet approaching, possibly Varric remnants." Ward rose to his feet. His expression hardened again. "Then we give them something else to remember." Minutes later, the Valkyrie rose into the sky once more, its hull gleaming through the clouds. On the bridge, Ward took his seat with quiet resolve. The Varric fleet appeared, sleek, modern, filled with confidence. But the moment their scanners detected the human warship, panic rippled through their ranks. Rathar's voice came over comms again. "Commander, there are too many of them." Ward's tone was steady. Numbers never mattered. Courage did. The AI waited for his command. Weapons ready. Ward's eyes focused on the screen. "Fire all batteries." The void lit up. Blue-white light consumed the darkness as the Valkyrie unleashed everything it had. The shockwaves rolled across the upper atmosphere, scattering the enemy like dust before a storm. When the battle ended, silence returned once more. Ward stood. Status: all hostiles eliminated. No damage sustained. He exhaled slowly. Then it is done. He turned to the main console and began recording. His voice was calm but carried the weight of history. "This is Commander Nathan Ward of the UNS Valkyrie. If anyone finds this recording, know that humanity's light never died. It only drifted between the stars, waiting to be remembered." He paused, then smiled faintly. "We were never ghosts. We were the fire that refused to fade." The AI saved the message. Recording stored in archive. Outside, the Valkyrie's engines flared, lifting higher into the heavens. The Zarthans watched from their smaller ship as the ancient vessel vanished beyond the clouds, its light fading into the vast emptiness. Rathar spoke softly, almost like a prayer. He was the last human, but not the end of humanity. And in the distance, a single beacon blinked in the dark, the symbol of Earth, still burning, still alive.